What if Antoni Gaudí's Hotel Attraction had actually been built? What would it really look like? And how would it have changed the New York skyline? Soaring 360 meters above Manhattan, a mosaic-clad marvel boasting stained glass windows, domed towers, and a giant illuminated star. A building so vast, it would have dwarfed every structure in the city and far beyond. For decades, people have tried to visualize this extraordinary skyscraper, but convincing interpretations are few and far between. Too often, the building becomes smooth, glossy, and futuristic, more science fiction than architecture. This reconstruction goes back to basics, staying as true as possible to the surviving sketches and later descriptions. The hotel's geometry was scrutinized, along with the proposed materials and decorative language. Gaudí's built and unbuilt projects were analysed for recurring structural ideas and motifs. Later academic work was also reviewed, including a virtual reconstruction produced by the Technical University of Madrid in 2023. Then, using AI as a tool, rather than a shortcut, Hotel Attraction was created from the ground up and placed into a modern-day alternate New York. Accounts put the building in Lower Manhattan, either on or in the vicinity of the future World Trade Center site. For this visualization, Hotel Attraction stands on nearby Church Street. No reconstruction can ever be definitive, since many details of the project are lacking. Some artistic license is inevitably called for. But the result is perhaps the closest glimpse yet of how Hotel Attraction may have appeared. Not as fantasy, but as tangible, real-world architecture. The story begins in Barcelona in 1908. Gaudí was at the height of his powers. Casa Batlló had transformed an ordinary building on Passeig de Gràcia into something dreamlike. Casa Mila was taking shape just up the street. At Colonia Güell, Gaudí was experimenting with radical new structural ideas. And for the man dubbed God's architect, the Sagrada Familia, his magnus opus, was slowly becoming an obsession. According to later accounts, two American businessmen showed up in Barcelona hoping to commission a monumental hotel for New York. Not simply a place to stay, but a building capable of wowing a city already obsessed with spectacle and scale. The visitors supposedly found Gaudí at the Sagrada Familia and were given a tour of the architect's greatest creations. He duly accepted the commission and threw himself into designing the project, as per the story. But the super-ambitious Hotel Attraction never came to be. Gaudí's mounting workload and his declining health have been cited as reasons the project never left the drawing board, as have concerns over its cost and feasibility from across the pond. Issues with fire safety, placement of elevators, and other practical problems would have been major obstacles. The building's out-and-out strangeness could have also played a part. The design is unlike anything on the New York skyline. A colossal, tapering central tower hugged by smaller towers. A vision of flowing, parabolic curves and catenary arches. A radical departure from the rigid, linear skyscrapers beginning to define the city. Perched on a raised plaza covering an entire block, the building is somewhere between luxury hotel, civic monument, and secular cathedral. A structure replete with restaurants, concert halls, museums, and observation spaces. For 1908, the proposal bordered on bonkers. Hotel Attraction would have come in at around double the height of the Singer Building, the tallest building in New York and the entire world at the time. Even the tallest structure globally, the Eiffel Tower, stood lower. Taller skyscrapers like the Empire State Building were decades away. But despite the sheer scale and oddness of the proposal, Hotel Attraction would have appeared familiar to anyone who knew Barcelona, because Hotel Attraction seems unmistakably Gaudi, right down to the tiniest mosaic decoration. In fact, the building feels like a Gaudi greatest hits mashup. It has hints of the Orientalism of Casa Vincennes, echoes of the neo-Gothic years, the flowing, organic geometry of Gaudi's naturalist period, the towering symbolism of the Sagrada Familia, almost as if New York had received an entire compressed history of Gaudi in a single commission. Descriptions of the materials point to iron, concrete, aluminium, brick, stone and marble. The facade was to be covered in trancadis, Gaudi's signature ceramic mosaic, a key detail many visualizations leave out. This is not a smooth, minimal skyscraper. Neo-Gothic turrets jut out, giving parts of the building a fairy tale quality. Glazed domes and stained glass windows of diverse geometric shapes catch the Manhattan light. Mosaics shift from deep greens and browns near the base, through warmer reds and mineral tones, before fading into silvers and golds at the summit. It's a building rooted in the earth, gradually lifting the eye upwards towards something lighter and more celestial. A similar heaven and earth palette appears in this historic model of the completed Sagrada Familia. The interior of Hotel Attraction is just as spectacular. The skyscraper has 4 monumental entrances, with the main doorway topped with an American imperial eagle. Inside, a reception hall rises 17 meters high. 5 underground floors handle kitchens, garages, machinery and other services, hidden beneath the spectacle above. The lower towers house the hotel suites and residences. On the first floor of the main tower sits the America Room, the first of several themed halls intended to reflect the cultures of the world. Moving up, the second floor is home to the Europa Hall. Designed as a restaurant, it's likely it would have also been used as an event space. The standout feature is the ornate ceiling. At the centre is a starry medallion, surrounded by sculptures of figures from Greek mythology and emblematic plants from the continent. On the third floor sits the Orient Room, Gaudi's homage to Asia. The space's fluid geometries appear to echo the organic forms of Casa Batlló and the Sagrada Familia. With no traditional flat walls to speak of, the space is shaped by massive parabolic columns and sweeping concentric ceiling waves. The architecture flows continuously, creating an almost temple-like atmosphere of stillness and awe. Australia follows on the 4th floor, Africa on the 5th. Beyond them, the upper levels expand into museums, galleries, concert halls and leisure spaces. And higher still comes the climax. The tribute to America Hall, a cavernous space rising 125 meters, flooded with light from clear and stained glass windows. It was set to feature a 10-meter replica of the Statue of Liberty at its center, surrounded by statues of the Founding Fathers. An American imperial eagle, similar to the one guarding the main entrance, was also planned for the chamber, along with other sculptural tributes to the US. This visualization is based on the virtual reconstruction from the Technical University of Madrid, which was created by Arno Luque Sala and Federico Luis del Blanco Garcia. It draws from this later interpretation and the purported original by Gaudi. In this reconstruction, the tower's uppermost facade is glazed to allow sufficient natural light to penetrate the atrium. Finally, a panoramic observation desk was planned just beneath the crowning star, promising breathtaking views of the city. At first glance, Hotel Attraction feels impossible for 1908. But perhaps the project isn't quite as unviable as it may seem. Gaudi built through geometry. For the unfinished Colonia Güell, he used hanging chain models to understand how gravity moved through space. Both designs share similarities, and that same logic might have made Hotel Attraction structurally sound. Revealingly, the researchers at the Technical University of Madrid found that from an engineering perspective, the proposal may have been far more plausible than its immense scale suggests. That said, the structure would likely have required newer techniques and materials, such as reinforced concrete, to become viable. Plus, fire safety, elevator placement, and the realities of operating a building of this scale would have still posed major questions. But there's an even bigger problem, because the deeper you delve into Hotel Attraction, the stranger the story becomes. Literally everything we know about the project comes through one man, Joan Matamala. The son of one of Gaudi's sculptors, he was raised around the Sagrada Familia and later became a sculptor, archivist, and chronicler of Gaudi's work in his own right. He even created the revered architect's death mask. Back in 1908, Matamala, just 15 years old, was hanging around in the basilica's workshop when he was allegedly made privy to what appeared to be a secret project. Secret because no other Gaudi collaborator ever mentioned Hotel Attraction. Most of the evidence was supposedly destroyed in 1936 during the Spanish Civil War, when anarchists torched the Sagrada Familia building site and Gaudi's workshop. There are no surviving contracts, letters, or invoices. Historians have failed to identify the American businessmen, try as they might. Some have speculated the two gentlemen may have been reps for William Gibbs McAdoo, the railroad tycoon and later US Treasury Secretary. But the hard evidence just isn't there. Only a handful of the sketches of Hotel Attraction are attributed to Gaudi, with Matamala's drawings and descriptions making up the lion's share. Hotel Attraction didn't come to light until 1956, when Matamala released a book containing details of the project. He went on to reveal further details during the 1960s. Needless to say, scholars have serious doubts whether Hotel Attraction is truly a Gaudi work. A number of figures deeply connected to Gaudi have questioned the story, casting doubt on the authenticity of the sketches and Matamala's credibility. Could he have confused it with another project, like the unfinished Colonia Güell, or according to one source, a commission for a chapel? Or might he have mixed it up with this unrealised Gaudi design from 1892 for a Catholic mission in Tangier for the Franciscan order? Could later outside influences have shaped a faux Gaudi? Some critics have pointed to similarities with other Catalan architectural proposals and fantasies. They include this idea from 1917 for an office building in New York by the architect Ignasi Brugueras, which was publicised in 1952, and the imagery on the cover of this book from 1953 about the mountain of Montserrat. The most vehement detractors have even implied Matamala conjured up the building for clout or financial security. He did later receive a substantial lifetime annuity for the sketches, which some of these doubters flag as a possible motivation for creating a hoax Gaudi project. And yet, others back Matamala's credibility and remain convinced the hotel is a lost Gaudi vision. The architect and renowned Gaudi scholar Joan Matamala defended the project for decades. Mexican architect Marcos Mejia Lopez, who devoted his doctoral thesis to the hotel, argues that the geometry, cathedral-like symbolism, and structural logic feel persuasively Gaudi. And the recent virtual reconstruction suggests a structure behaving in surprisingly Gaudi-like ways. Considering Matamala was not an architect, this lends weight to the case for authenticity. To supporters, Hotel Attraction feels simply too Gaudi-esque to invent. And that is the real mystery. Not how Hotel Attraction would have looked or why it never got built, but whether Gaudi really designed it at all. Maybe the truth lies somewhere in between. Perhaps Gaudi did receive a passing visit from a couple of smartly dressed American visitors. Perhaps Gaudi sketched some rough outlines of a New York skyscraper, half seriously, half for fun. And perhaps that was it. Then memories clouded, details grew, and the doodles became a great architectural what-if. One thing's for sure though. The building has been a source of fascination since its discovery, and it continues to capture imaginations. In the 1970s, the project found a champion in the architect Rem Koolhaas, who featured the skyscraper in his Delirious New York book. Following the 9/11 attacks, Hotel Attraction was proposed as a visionary memorial skyscraper for the World Trade Center site. In the Fox TV series Fringe, which ran from 2008 to 2013, the fabled hotel rises over an alternate New York skyline. The building has featured in literature too. The late Carlos Ruiz Zafón imagined Gaudi in Manhattan, turning the unrealized skyscraper into a Gothic myth of its own. And more than a century later, the skyscraper has even found its way onto wrists, inspiring the 2026 attraction collection by luxury watchmaker Le Bond. It's no surprise Hotel Attraction still captivates. For a brief moment, New York may have come close to being home to the strangest, and to many people, the most beautiful skyscraper ever conceived. A building suspended somewhere between history and legend. A Gaudi ghost of the Manhattan skyline that never was.